Today, we're going to try and understand one of the most secretive countries on the entire planet. We're going inside North Korea to really get a handle on this complex web of rules that controls every single part of a person's life. And this picture we have, it's all thanks to the stories of people who risked absolutely everything to get out. It all really starts with a simple question about elections that, well, you've probably never even thought to ask. Okay, just imagine this for a second. It's election day, you go to vote, but there's only one name on the ballot. And voting, it's not optional, it's mandatory. So what happens if you decide not to show up? Well, that's not just a protest. It's considered an act of treason. This isn't some dystopian novel. This is how elections work in North Korea. And honestly, it's just the tip of the iceberg in a system built for total, absolute control. So, the big question is, how on earth did a country get to this point? To really understand the rules, you have to first understand the rulers. The entire country, its politics, its society, it's all built around one single family dynasty. So let's do a real quick history rundown. After World War II, Korea was split in two. The North was backed by the Soviets, and in 1948, Kim Il-sung became its first leader. Then came the Korean War, which just carved that division into stone. Ever since then, power has been passed down like a family heirloom, from the grandfather Kim Il-sung to his son Kim Jong-il, and now to his grandson Kim Jong-un. This unbroken family rule, it's the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. To keep their kingdom safe, the Kims built a wall. But I'm not just talking about one made of concrete and barbed wire. I'm talking about a wall of information. The regime's number one rule of control is to completely seal its people off from the entire rest of the world. This chart right here shows that digital divide perfectly. See, while we have the entire world at our fingertips with the internet, most North Koreans can only get on a national intranet. Think of it as a tiny, walled-off version of the web where every single click, every search, and every message is watched by the state. There's no outside world in there. And this firewall, it's not just digital. The government bans pretty much anything that might give people a peek at what life is like outside. We're talking foreign movies, pop music, you name it. Making an international phone call requires official permission. There are no private newspapers or TV stations. They even check USB drives for smuggled content. The whole point is to stop what they call ideological contamination. And the control over media is just total. Every single TV is preset, it's locked to just a few government channels. There's no such thing as channel surfing. In fact, just trying to find a signal from another country is a serious crime. The state literally decides everything its citizens see and hear, every minute of every day. So, that's the information bubble. Now let's zoom in a layer deeper and see how this control filters down from what people see and hear to how they actually live their lives, right down to how they look. Yeah, it starts with something as basic and personal as your hair. The government literally has a list of approved hairstyles. That's it. You have to pick from that list. Any kind of personal expression that strays from the norm, it's just not allowed. And it doesn't stop with your hair. It's your clothes, too. Blue jeans? Nope. They're banned. They're seen as a symbol of American imperialism. Same goes for things like sunglasses, or dyeing your hair a bright color, or wearing a t-shirt with English on it. All of that is seen as a sign of corrupt Western influence that has to be stamped out. Your freedom to move around is also incredibly restricted. You can't just pack a bag and decide to go visit another city. If you want to travel inside your own country, you have to apply for and get an official government permit. Traveling without one is illegal. This control even extends to the very idea of ownership. The thing is, in North Korea, private property is basically an illusion. Your apartment, that little shop you might run, the land you farm, technically it all belongs to the state. And it can be taken away whenever the state decides. All right, now we're getting to the deepest and maybe the most disturbing level of control. These are the systems that aren't just about managing what people do, but are designed to actually engineer their thoughts, their loyalties, and their social status, right from the moment they're born. This is the Songbun system. It's basically a caste system you're born into, and it determines your whole life based on how loyal your ancestors were. So if your grandfather was a war hero, you're core class. You get the best jobs, go to the best schools, maybe even live in the capital. But if your ancestors were, say, landowners, or if you have family in South Korea, you're branded hostile. You get the worst jobs and live under constant suspicion. Your fate is sealed before you even take your first breath. And then there's this. This is probably the regime's most terrifying tool of control. It's called the three-generation rule. If you're convicted of a major political crime, it's not just you who goes to a prison camp. Your kids and their kids will also pay the price. They can be born and raised inside a political prison camp for a crime their grandparent committed. It's an incredibly powerful way to ensure obedience, because it's not just about saving yourself, it's about saving your entire family line. To really hammer home this psychological control, every citizen has to go to these weekly self-criticism sessions. Think about that. You're forced to stand up in front of your neighbors and coworkers and confess your ideological mistakes. Things like, I wasn't enthusiastic enough when praising our great leader, or I found myself admiring a foreign-made product. And then everyone else is required to criticize you too, and the whole thing ends with everyone repledging their total loyalty to the Kims. Which brings us to this chilling idea: thought crime. In North Korea, just having a disloyal thought is considered as bad as committing a disloyal act. And with a massive network of informants in every neighborhood and every workplace, just whispering a complaint or a doubt to the wrong person can get you and your family into serious trouble. Loyalty isn't something that's just assumed. It has to be performed, constantly. Every single home is required to have portraits of the first two leaders, and they have to be kept perfectly clean. Kids in school have to memorize these long ideological principles. And on the anniversary of a leader's death, everyone has to go out and mourn in public. And if you don't look sad enough, that can be reported as a sign of disloyalty. So when you start putting all these pieces together, the information blockade, the social rules, the intense psychological conditioning, you begin to see how a society can become truly, completely a world apart. What's with the number 115? Well, if it were the year 2026 and you were in North Korea, it wouldn't be 2026. It would be Juche 115. See, they use their own calendar. It starts in 1912, which was the year their founder, Kim Il-sung, was born. It's such a powerful symbol of how they've totally disconnected themselves from the rest of the planet's timeline. So what's the point of all this control? Why go to such extreme lengths? It really boils down to one thing: survival. The entire system is built on this core belief that if the North Korean people ever got a clear, honest look at the outside world, especially at the freedom and prosperity in a place like South Korea, the regime's whole reality would just collapse. And this is so important to remember. Everything we've talked about, it's not from official government pamphlets. This entire detailed picture has been carefully pieced together from the incredibly brave and often heartbreaking stories of the few thousand people who have managed to escape since the Korean War ended. And that really just leaves us with one last, kind of sobering thought. For the millions of people living inside this system, none of this is weird. It's just life. When every book, every TV show, every teacher, and every family story has been telling you the exact same things since the day you were born, how would you ever even know that there was another reality to question?